On episode 346 of the 40 Plus Fitness Podcast, we meet Karen Salmansohn and discuss her book, Life is Long, 50 plus ways to help you live a little bit closer to forever. You can find the full show notes for this episode at 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/346. Have you decided you're ready to make a change? To reclaim your health and fitness? The 40 Plus Fitness Podcast is here for you. I'm your host, Alan Meisner. I'm an NSAM certified personal trainer with a specialization in corrective exercise and fitness nutrition. Let me be your coach as you find your way on your health and fitness journey. All right, let's go. Our guest today is a best-selling author and award-winning designer who is passionate about empowering people to live their happiest, highest potential lives. She's known for creating a new breed of self-help for those who would never get caught doing self-help. With no further ado, here is Karen Salmansohn. So Karen, welcome to 40 Plus Fitness.
Oh, it's great to be here.
Now your book is Life is Long, 50 plus ways to help you live a little bit closer to forever. Really enjoyed that title. It just kind of drew me in because I'm on the other side of 50. And then when I got into the book and I was like, you promised your son, Ari, that you were going to live to 100. And I remember when I was in junior college, a friend and I basically made a bet. I don't know that we'll ever pay out on it, but I bet him that I was going to live to 110.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I have kind of that forward looking. So having, I think you had like 57 different ideas and things to think about as far as what you can do to improve your longevity. Many of these were going to add years, but quite a bit of them were actually more about adding quality to the years that you have as well.
Yeah, I say that I want to help people to live longer and younger. And there's a word that I read, I didn't make it up, called welderly, which are people that as you grow more elderly, you stay active and well, and that's kind of what I'm going for.
Awesome. Now, I know we see a lot of that now that we didn't used to see, I guess 70-year-old bodybuilders and powerlifters and marathon runners or 80-year-old mountain climbers. We're seeing that more and more. And I hope that most of us are realizing that the medical benefits and things that have allowed us to live longer doesn't necessarily guarantee us that we're going to be well when we get older.
True. But when you see role models like that, it helps you. It becomes a healthy, self-fulfilling prophecy. The more you're like, oh, that's possible. It's sort of like, I write books in general that help to motivate people, not just to live longer, but on other things. And there was a guy, Roger Bannister, he ran a 4-minute mile. And before he could run the 4-minute mile, everybody thought that would be crazy to try to run a 4-minute mile. And then after Roger did it, so many other people started to do it because they said to themselves, oh, that's possible. If this Roger guy can do it, then I can do it too. So if you start to see other people, thriving as they get older, then it helps you to have a different mindset.
Yeah. Well, they are thriving. And I think that's, it does give us that possible. And then there's the other side of the spectrum. One of my best friends from high school died this last week.
Oh my gosh.
And so he's 52 years old and he's gone. And so, these things just don't happen. You have to do some things to make it happen. So your promise to your son, Ari, you're doing, and you've researched and learned a lot of these things to say, these are the things that you can do to make sure that you get there. And I think that's the action. I don't want someone to think it just happens, that there's a date certain. You can prolong your life. You can live closer to forever.
Yeah, there are things that you can control, and some things are your choice. You can age quickly or you can age slowly, and some of that is your choice.
Right. Now, so the first one, like I said, there were 57 of these in here, and I was like, so.
Which is funny, because actually when I wrote the book, I was 57, but I just turned 58 in August. So I didn't even realize I wrote, like, there's even almost symbolic reason for there to be 57.
Yeah. And they say there has to be an odd number, so you couldn't just stop at 50 anyway.
You know what happened actually behind the scenes? It was only supposed to be 50, but I got so passionate about research. I wound up with like over 100. And then I said to the editor, I have trouble figuring out limiting it to 50. So she allowed me to add on another 7.
Well, good. Because all of them are really, really important. And I don't think you could have cut any further into these and had it. But you would have been leaving some on the table, and you probably have some.
Yeah.
So you've got a second book in you, that's for sure. Now, one of my favorite ones, and it's one that we talk about a lot when we get into nutrition, because a lot of the people that do listen to this podcast, they do practice a ketogenic lifestyle, so they're more fat now. We're getting away from the fat is bad mantra that's been out there, and we're saying, okay, but some fat is bad, and so you say give yourself an oil change. Can you kind of talk a little bit about that and how the oils that we eat can be good for us or they can be bad for us?
Right. There are high quality fats and, healthy oils that you can have. And, some of the bad oils, of course, make people think that all oils are bad, but that's not true. And so are you on a ketogenic diet? Is that one of the things? It's low in carbs, high in fats from healthy oils.
Yes.
So is that like a general ketogenic, or do you kind of do it like every couple months, or do you kind of?
I do a seasonal. So the way it'll work for me is, I think about how my ancestors ate. And what I know is, okay, they're from Northern and Eastern European. So I'm all white guy, and I cannot jump. But that said, they didn't have access to berries and fruits during the winter. So they would not have been eating a ton of vegetables during that time of the year. They probably would have been hunting a lot more smaller animals. They would have been going for fish. So I eat a lot of fish. I eat a lot of smaller, game like the chicken and things like that, turkey. But that said, I know occasionally they're going to get hungry enough and they're going to sit there and see an opportunity to go kill an elk. So a good high quality red meat was an occasional thing that they had in their diet. And then when the summer or spring came back around, then there's berries, and you walk out in the field and see a field of blueberries or blackberries, they would just eat. They just gorge. So I go through a season of what I would call feasting. And then I'll go through a season of what I call famine, where I'm mostly just fish and meat with leafy green vegetables and that type of thing. Some root vegetables, but not a lot. That puts me into ketosis for a period of the time. I just flip it because I like football season and Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's, and I don't want to have to think about my food as much during my feasting season. I get to kind of do that, and high quality beers and all the other. So I have my feasting season, and then I have my fasting, or not so much fasting season, but my famine season, and I just cycle through generally that way for the most part.
Right. That's great, because then you have the variety and you don't get bored if it's just like the same thing that can get people to kind of like, cheat and go off of a healthy diet plan, but you create a system where it's, variety and change.
Right. And when I'm eating the higher fat, moderate protein, because I do still try to stay with a moderate protein, I'm still looking to say, okay, I'm fish. So I want, fish oil is important. It's good.
Fish oil,
I'm a big fan of olive oil and avocado oil, and that type of thing. I'll use some
avocado oil is my personal favorite. I have like a huge bottle and I do everything with avocado oil. I love it. And it's also good for your skin. Like, I don't, I also, I think we'll be talking about it. I don't like to put things on my skin because that gets absorbed into your body that have chemicals. So I try to keep my moisturizers as, chemical free as possible. But a lot of times when you tell people that aren't familiar with a ketogenic diet to, make sure that they have a diet high in fats, they think, oh, great, French fries. No. No fried foods. No, that's not what this is about. I love avocados. It's a great way to make sure that you get some healthy fats. And I make a healthy avocado smoothie. And it fills me up because when you have foods with fats, it also helps you to feel fuller faster. which helps to make sure that you don't do those cheat eats because you're feeling more full. So that helps a lot. And then MCT, medium chain triglyceride oil, that helps. That's been known to help with your brain's cognitive functions, as well as like weight management and gut health and inflammation. There are people that add that to coffee, MCT oil. I'm sure you've read about that.
Yeah, and basically what this is an oil that has been derived typically from coconut oil, and it's broken down into this, what, like she said, medium triglyceride. And what happens there is the body really only has the option to use it for energy in the moment. So when you have this stuff, your body's going to immediately want to start using it for energy. So you're going to feel an energy boost and kind of a cognitive little pickup, which is why I think a lot of people like to add it to their coffee. But a note of caution, you have to ease yourself into using MCT oil or you're going to have a mess on your hands, because it will cause some digestive problems if you're not ready for how much you're eating. So, trying it, yes, I have some down in my pantry, and I will typically do something like, let's say I want to have a big salad for lunch. So I've got my leafy greens and that's all set up. I will, put some olive oil in, I'll put some balsamic vinegar, and then I'll put a little bit of MCT oil in there and shake it up and use that as a part of the salad dressing. And I don't have a 2:00, letdown at all. I might have a good lunch like that with heavy fat. I'm really going to be good until dinner. And sometimes even that breakfast might be the first meal I'm eating. I mean, I say breakfast, that salad might be the first meal I even had that day, because I, just naturally, because I'm in ketosis, don't feel hungry in the morning. And fasting was one of your other
intermittent fasting.
Yeah, but
we can talk about that too. But there's so much. Now you don't want to.
There's so much.
But if you don't feel hungry, there used to be that breakfast was the most important meal of the day. But there's a lot of research that says that if you skip breakfast, that's actually good for you. And the grazing throughout the day, which everybody said was great for you, is now coming back with research that says that might not be so good.
Yeah.
That intermittent fasting is better for your mitochondria.
That's one of the cores. I've done the self-study. I've looked at it both ways for myself, and I think that's the important thing, is to experiment with what works for you. If you're going to eat carbohydrates, in make that a good amount of your food. So you're going to eat the grains and the beans and legumes and all that. If that's the approach you're going to take, you're probably going to want a good breakfast, steel cut oats and those types of things, because your body is going to need the sugar right then. Whereas if you're in ketosis, your body's already producing ketones. It isn't going to be as necessary. So I think it really depends on your way of eating as to how important that first meal is.
True.
And then, I'm still call it breakfast, even if it happens to be 2:00 in the afternoon.
That's funny.
Now, other oils, the oils we would want to avoid.
The bad processed oils, like you should look on packages. It's not just something that you cook with, but anything that you buy, if it has soybean oil, corn oil, safflower oil, cottonseed oil, sunflower palm, the partially hydrogenated oils, like all of that, you keep away from.
Yeah. If it's in a can or it's in a clear bottle, it's probably not going to be a good oil for you, because it's so shelf stable, it's just going to sit there. And they make it in such a way that it can just sit there and not go bad.
And I see there's now a trend to make potato chips with the better oils, but I still think that potato chips are potato chips are potato chips. Yeah. So it's still processed food. Anything with a barcode, you have to be a little suspicious of. And
that's another one you slid in there, but
yes. I'm passionate about this.
I know you are, and that's what I say. And that's why I don't think you could have left one out, because they interconnect and overwind so well together, that it was also, in planning this conversation, it was difficult for me to decide
Oh, wow.
I at the beginning I set my number. I said no higher than 7, and so we got to get moving if we're going to get all 7 of these. But
well, it also brings up why I wanted to write the book, which is that I wanted to curate the best tips and write it in a fun, easy to understand way. I love reading, like, I've had this skill set for a while, I don't know what it is, to read like even boring, complicated research studies, and then I write it up with humor and easy to understand. It's something that I've always been able to do, like write up boring, complicated things in a fun, easy to understand way. And that was my goal for this book, to do the hard lifting of reading and then narrow focusing it down to the most important stuff and make it easy to read with fun graphics. Like there's an illustrator that we found, and I just love her style. And in fact, I'm bringing her back for my next book that's going to come out next year. I just love her graphics. She's so talented.
And it is a beautiful book. And you're right. You did take this, but you didn't just say this is a rule. And you actually took the time to do the research. You point to the research, but you don't get real dry into, okay, here's all the things they found in this study. You just sort of place it out there and say, okay, I've done my research and here's where I found it. If you want to go down that rabbit hole, here's the information. You can go ahead and really, really dive in and get deeper into this if you need to.
One thing that I'll say, I'm just thinking about this now as you're interviewing me. I made the research and information so easy that I could actually talk about it with my 8-year-old son, because I wanted to get him on board. One of the tools that I mentioned is that, you are who you eat with, which I think, we might want to talk about too.
Well, let's go ahead and talk about it.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Well, my son, my son was eating all of this stuff like pizza and macaroni and cheese and, all of liking bacon and boppity boop. And so when I was around it, it became more challenging to resist it, and potato chips and Doritos and all of that, like a kid. And I wanted to, I wanted to raise him so he could make the choice of knowing, like, do you really want to eat that? And so I spoke about everything with him in such a way that he could understand this. And also, so he would be my accountability buddy and we could do it together. Now, I allow him, because I want him to have a normal childhood, to have the pizza and the macaroni and cheese, but he knows to do it in moderation. He's aware. The tools in this book are so broken down in such a way that they're so easy to understand that you could talk about it with your kids and get them involved in eating healthier. It's written in such a way.
Yeah, it is. And I don't want to say it's a kid's book.
It's not a kid's book.
But you're absolutely right. This is something that anyone can kind of sit down.
There's a logic. There's a logic that my little guy is, I'm a proud mommy. He's pretty smart for his age, but I do think that you could bring it in and talk about it with your family and get the whole family active in it, because, as I say, you are who you eat with, and you wind up being affected by those around you and how they eat. So you want to get people in your family who you eat with all the time sort of actively eating healthier. The studies show that you become the weight. They actually have other studies too, which is interesting, where people also sometimes take on the income of the people that they spend time with.
Yeah, that's a Jim Rome quote where he says, you are the product of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And it's because of both things. One is you learn good habits from them.
Yes.
And we keep ourselves accountable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
and there's something called emotional contagion. You even become sometimes in the mood of the people that you hang out with. All of this is so interesting to me, how that winds up happening,
Yes. So let's switch gear a little bit, because I really enjoyed your conversation in the book about supplements.
Well, first thing I want to say is that I really do try to get all of my vitamins from food rather than from a bottle. But I do have some supplements that I turn to. And I also want to say, because I want to be clear that everything in this book, before you make any massive change in your diet, you should talk to your doctor, because everybody's different. Everybody's body is different. And I don't want to recommend something to somebody if they're, if they have their own, health challenges or something that they might not even know about. They should see a doctor.
Totally agree.
Yeah. That in mind, I am a huge fan of taking a vitamin D supplement, but I make sure that it has K in it, D3 with K2. And my own doctor, who vetted the tools in this book, he told me that pretty much everybody meets these days, at least here in New York City, where people spend a lot of time indoors versus outdoors, have a vitamin D deficiency. So I make sure that I take it in liquid form, by the way. I feel that it goes into my system better, and I don't like pills that much. I just don't like swallowing them. They make me nauseous. They feel uncomfortable. So I get a bottle of liquid vitamin D3 that has K2 in it. And the K2 helps your body to absorb it. It kind of works like a traffic cop to ensure that the D3 goes to like the right places and the right amount and more swiftly.
Okay.
And it's kind of like it makes up for they call it like the sunshine vitamin for people that aren't getting enough sunlight. And it has so many benefits: mind, body, spirit, all of those things.
Yeah, and you can actually go into your doctor and you can get a lab test that will look at your vitamin D levels to see if there is some level of deficiency there. So you don't have to just say that I'm going to be on a vitamin D3 all the time, because I actually live in the Sunshine State of Florida, and so I get a good bit of sunshine when I'm able to get out and walk around and do things. But that said, I know the vast majority of us in the Northern Hemisphere, there's going to be a period of the year where we're just not going to get enough sunshine, either because we're indoors for inclement weather or the sun is just not at the right angle for us. So we do need to check that. And this is one of those times when you do want to go to your doctor for a wellness visit. And if you're concerned about your vitamin D and don't want to take a supplement all the time, you can have it checked and decide if that's the best course of action for you.
Great. Out of curiosity, since you live in the Sunshine State, do you ever have a vitamin D3 deficiency? Does that ever show up?
I have not. My doctor still kind of wants me to take a vitamin D3 because so many of his patients have a deficiency. But I just tell him, I'm like, let's look at it quarter on quarter. If I go through a season, right now we're kind of finishing up the summertime. I know it's in most parts of the country right now, it's a little cooler. It's still in the high 80s and sunny here. So I'm out and about getting sun pretty much every day, just doing normal stuff around the house. So it's, right now, no, but I can see probably, sometimes around February, it gets a little on the low side, and I do actually start supplementing.
Well, I'm a big fan. And here in New York, it's like pretty much all my friends are on D3. It's like it's very common here in New York.
Yes.
The other one is CoQ10, coenzyme Q10. Is one that I, again, checked with your doctor, but that one is, well known to help with longevity and energy and, pretty much helps everything: your heart, lungs, brain, immune system. It helps your mitochondria to burn fuel, and anything that's good for your mitochondria is good for your health and your length of life. So that's one that I take pretty much. I mean, actually, I take all the time. I take every day.
Okay.
What's your thoughts on that? Have you heard about that one?
I've heard a lot about it. Typically, when I'm talking to somebody and they get into that, it goes into heart health. And again, that's the energy aspects of the mitochondria. When you have strong, energized mitochondria, and your heart is a muscle that has to have that energy to fire every single beat for the rest of your life, as long as that is. So for a lot of people, the question isn't, should you take it? It's, why aren't you taking it? And then the other side of it's just, if your body can actually produce it and you can actually get it from food sources, typically we just aren't getting enough and we aren't producing enough.
Well, and then the next one is green tea extract. which you can get into your system more than just having a cup of green tea. They also make green tea powder, but they make a liquid extract. And, green tea, as everybody knows, probably is, it gives you a great boost of antioxidants. And anything, again, with your antioxidants, it helps to fight cell damage and, that's caused by free radicals, all of that. And so it helps to reduce blood pressure. It improves your blood fat levels. It boosts your heart health. It helps with your skin, your memory. And it helps with cancer, as, research says. So this is a basic one that doesn't have some of the risks that some of the other vitamins and supplements have. So, but again, check with your doctor.
Yes. Now, one thing you mentioned earlier, you talked about using avocado oil as a moisturizer. And I think, that is important to moisturize where you need it for sure. But I think a lot of women, they're going to want to look a certain way, and it's become fairly common to say, okay, I need, this makeup, or, I need to do this with my nails. I need to go for this pedicure, that manicure. And so we're putting things on our skin with the apparent knowledge, but not really true awareness of what chemicals are in some of these products that we're putting on our skin.
Right. Well, I am very aware of that. Actually, when I was pregnant with my son, I had my baby late in life. I was 49 when I got pregnant, and I had an estrogen patch that I was supposed to wear because things seep. I put it on my arm. Things seep into your body through your skin. So, isn't that how you stop smoking too? You put a patch on. I don't know. I never smoked.
There is a product. Yeah, I think it's called Nicoderm or something like that. But there are patches, yes, that provide some nicotine through the skin.
Even vitamin
step
patches.
yourself down. And there's vitamin patches. Testosterone and estrogen are both done either through patches or through creams that'll go through your skin. So, yes, we do absorb these things into our blood system, into our whole system through the skin, because it is an organ, but it is an absorptive organ that can take things in.
So, I'm very aware of what I put on my skin, and I don't want to plug a specific product, but I only buy, there's one brand that I buy that smells great. And I use that, or I could use, an avocado oil from the kitchen and put that on and feel like my skin looks fantastic. And you don't have to spend a lot of money. That's what's so funny. These companies, sometimes they charge you so much, but it might be better just to pick a natural product like that, like coconut oil or avocado oil. And I really watch having my nails done, because the more I've read about nail polish and even being in a nail salon with the fumes from that nail salon, so many studies on that were just very scary when I started to read about this. So I actually cut back on, nail polish, and if I, and pedicures and manicures. And if I do go, I try to go to a salon during a non-busy time, so there's not much stuff in the air. And I look out I read ingredients on products, and I really make sure that nothing has formaldehyde, which is a known carcinogen. Some of these things are so scary. Toluene, it's an additive they put in gasoline. Some of these I can't even pronounce, and if you can't pronounce it, chances are it's really terrible for you. But even things with just fragrance in them, like the word fragrance, has been linked to cancer and birth defects and central nervous system disorders. It's so I really watch it with the chemicals that I add into my body through beauty products.
Yeah, and it does take some research to find out what's in these products, but right now there's a new kind of industry out there of folks that are trying to put out really good products that don't have these things in them.
We have nail polish now that doesn't have some of these things, and I have sometimes used that, but I definitely don't like to go to the nail salons anymore because of what I've read with the fumes in the air.
And I don't go to nail salons, so
Yeah, yeah.
I get to live forever. Now I'm a huge proponent of telling folks, you need to do wellness visits. You need to go see your doctor. But you put in here an apple cider vinegar a day keeps your doctor away. And I appreciate the kind of the tie-in with the old statement we would have with the apple
Yeah.
and the doctor. You do want to go to your doctor, but you don't want to have to go to your doctor. And so I think that's where we're going with this. Can you talk about how apple cider vinegar is going to keep me from having to go to the doctor?
Well, it's actually been known to help with blood sugar levels. And I feel like I don't want to hype too many products, but I buy these really tasty ones that they make. And some of them, it's so funny. There's a whole industry with apple cider vinegar type products where they have funny labels and really funny names. And in fact, right now, by accident, not even thinking about it, I bought one today at a store called Fizzy Fox, and it's really cute and it has apple cider vinegar. There's a whole industry with this, with carrot, ginger, and turmeric, and it tastes so good. And I have that in the mornings. I try to. I love having apple cider vinegar in the morning because I feel like it gets my body cleaned out. At least that's how I feel, and I start my day with it that way, and I also get it out of the way. They say it helps you with sugar cravings. I buy the ones that are mixed with other things, but you could just add like a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar to water. You have to watch it. Don't, oh my God, absolutely don't just take a spoonful of apple cider. You will die. I mean, it's like not die, but it just is terrible. And
it is. I can attest. It is an unpleasant experience. I just one time didn't dilute it enough.
Oh my God.
Put it in with about 8 ounces of water and a tablespoon, and that was a little tough when I drank it. But just you do want to dilute it, and it may be something where you take half at one time and then half later. Sometimes I'll squeeze a bit of lemon or lime in there, and that kind of changes the texture of it, the taste of it a little bit. So there's ways you can mask it, like you said, with the curcumin and the carrot and the kind of flavorings. If you want to go that
one that I have right now is so yummy, and I don't even think about it as apple cider vinegar, but I know it is. That's why I'm drinking it. And I have ones in my refrigerator in the other room that come mixed like an elixir. It might even have the word elixir on it. And those are the one with the funny names and funny labels. And they put in things like maple syrup, and that helps, and it really good flavors. And I love those. So I also recommend you Google it, and you'll see. I don't want to promote a particular brand, but it's the American Diabetes Association is a big fan of people having apple cider vinegar because it helps with control insulin, and it's been shown to help with appetite control, and it helps you absorb minerals like calcium. So it has so many benefits. Big fan.
Yes. Now, we want to brush our teeth because we want the beautiful white teeth as we get older, and we don't want to potentially lose those teeth as we get older.
Right.
But there's another reason to brush your teeth and floss. Could you talk about that?
Well, there's oral bacteria in your mouth if you're not taking good care of your teeth, that this actually goes into your body because your gums have blood vessels in it, and if your gums are not healthy, then that means your whole body will have like a consequence from this as well. So you have to take really good care of not only your teeth, but your gums. So your bacteria in your mouth, the better you are at controlling your oral bacteria, the better your whole body's immune system will be. So, floss, brush, more than twice a day, even if you can, and make sure that you're taking care of your gums as much as your teeth.
And that's one of those things that it should just be a ritual to us, but take your time and clean your teeth. And I don't mean that to berate anybody. I'm just saying a lot of us get in a hurry. Bedtime rituals are really, really important. And, when you get up in the morning, obviously that's a good time as well. But make this just a part of your nighttime ritual. We want to get away from screens. We want to make sure our sleep's good quality. So taking just a few extra minutes to really make sure that you do a good job there is one, going to make your dentist and the person's cleaning your teeth very, very happy. But two, it's gonna help you live longer.
And it's so interesting that everything's so interconnected. But your gum disease could affect your heart health. I mean, everything's interconnected.
Yes, it is. And that's again why I think all of these work so well together, is because you're not just impacting one system. When you make a change like this, you're really impacting a lot of them. And that's why people like simple rules. Well, okay, here's a simple rule, but the reality is it interconnects with 56 other rules that if you're doing all of these, you're really covering all of your bases. But I want to leave with what was my favorite one. As I was reading this one, I was like, okay, this is why Adam Sandler is going to help me live forever. Because I could watch The Waterboy over and over and over again because I love that movie and it makes me laugh every time I watch it. Why is Adam Sandler going to help me live longer?
This one, I had to squish in like 6 studies. There's so many studies that the more you laugh, the better your overall health. It boosts your immune system. It helps with the free radicals. There's studies all around the world too, like even Japan, where I wouldn't even think of that country as being, huge proponents of comedy, but they found that laughter seems to lower levels of like this dangerous protein, and it helped with progression of some kind of diabetes type disease that causes kidney failure. They did a whole study on it in Japan. So now the Japanese are huge fans of Adam Sandler, I guess. It's all over the world. These studies have been done. And I know that in general, happiness has been linked with longer health. But laughter in particular, they now have yoga classes that are laughter yoga classes. And I know that there's been studies that watching funny movies helps. So just being with a funny friend, looking at life with a more funny lens, trying to find the humor in things, not taking things. So it helps lower stress, and stress is bad for your longevity. So definitely watch those funny movies, be with funny friends, try to find the humor in your life. And I tried to make the book funny, so hopefully you got a bunch of chuckles reading the book. So that helps you as you're reading.
Absolutely. And it's just a really cool book. The illustrations are beautiful, very simple rules per se, and source material, so that this isn't just something you made up or thought, this is what people would want to hear.
We had so much source material, Alan, that we couldn't fit in the footnotes in the book, and I had to put it up on my website because I had so many studies that we'd have to add on another 10 pages in the back. So the publisher said, can you just put this on your website, because I had so much research. And it's all up on my website, which is even interesting. People go to my website, they can find it over there at notsalmon.com, because the research studies, when you read those, you find out even more. And it's very fascinating. This whole topic of longevity I find very fascinating.
Yes. Now your website, you said, was notsalmon.com.
Yes, because my last name is Salmansohn, Karen Salmansohn, and everybody mangles it, and they're always going Salmansohn. I'm always going, not salmon, not salmon. So I figured if I made my website Karen Salmansohn, 3 people would know how to spell it, and I'd get no traffic. So it's notsalmon.com, notsalmon.com.
All right. Anything else? I mean, I know you told me that earlier that your mom's going to be involved in this project at some level. Could you share that with us?
Yeah, well, one of the many tips in the book is delay when you retire, delay when you expire. And my mom is an actress and a voiceover narrator her whole life. And she's 87 and still going strong. And so when the publisher said, let's do an audio version of the book, I thought, I think I'll give it to my mom because it will be a beautiful thing. First of all, she's still working, and the book is about celebrating staying active into, your later years. And then I'll have this forever recording of her. And I went to the session with her, and it was like this mom-daughter thing with her recording it. And she did a great job. And she's funny, and she made like reading the book feel fun to listen to. So my mom is the voiceover on Life is Long, my 87-year-old mom.
Awesome. So I'm going to make sure to have links to that on the website and links to your website as well, so they can go see the research and all the cool things you're doing there, because this is not your first book. There's a lot of other great material and books out there that they should check out. You can go to 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/346, and I'll have those links there. So Karen, thank you so much for being a part of 40 Plus Fitness.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. This was fun.
If you enjoyed today's episode, would you please take just one moment and leave us a rating and review on the application that you're listening to this podcast right now? I'd really appreciate it, and it does help other people find the podcast because it tells the people that are hosting these podcast episodes out there on their apps that you're interested, and they know that other people like you might be interested. So please do that. If you can't figure out how to do that on your app, you can email me directly, and I'll try to figure it out for you. Or you can go to 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/review, and that'll take you to the iTunes where you can launch that and leave a review there. So really appreciate the ratings and reviews. It does help the podcast. It helps me. So thank you very much for that. And also, I'd really like to continue this conversation a little bit further. So if you haven't already, why don't you go ahead and join our Facebook group? You can go to 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/group, and that'll take you to our Facebook group where you can request entry. It's a really cool group of people, like-minded, all in our 40s, all trying to get healthy and fit. Really love to have you out there and have you a part of that conversation. So go to 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/group. So I apologize if I sound a little bit hoarse today. I'm in the process of recording the audio book for the Wellness Roadmap. It's a lot harder than I thought it'd be. A lot of reading out loud, a lot of rereading out loud, a lot of fits and starts, but it's coming along. And so I'm really looking forward to getting the book released soon. If you go to wellnessroadmapbook.com, you can be a part of the launch team and be on the front lines of launching this book, The Wellness Roadmap. So I hope you will go to wellnessroadmapbook.com and become a part of the launch team. I really need your help to make this thing happen and happen the way it should. So again, wellnessroadmapbook.com. And as I noted, doing the podcast, doing this, we are starting a Patreon account, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with Patreon. You can go to 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/Patreon, and that's Patreon, and become a patron of the show. This will help support what's going on here with 40 Plus Fitness Podcast. You may or may not know that I have an admin that I've hired that she basically helps me with the show notes and a couple of other tasks here and there. So if you go to the website and you see the transcripts, she's responsible for that, and I'm paying her to do that. And I also have a producer, audio producer, that does most of the audio production for the show. While I'm doing the double shows for the 2 months, I didn't want to pay for more, so I'm sucking some of that up myself. But I do have people that are working for me to help me make this podcast as good as I possibly can. And by becoming a Patreon of the show, you're going to help me get them paid. You're going to help me make sure that the show continues to have exactly what you need in it. So please do go to 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/Patreon and become a patron today. Thank you. Next time on the 40 Plus Fitness Podcast, we meet Dr. Mack and discuss glutathione. Until then, have a happy and healthy day.